Head S, Ministry of Manpower. The question is that the total sum to be allocated for Head S of the estimates be reduced by $100. SMS Zaqy Mohamad.
Mr. Chairman, in his National Day rally speech last year, Prime Minister Lee accepted the recommendations by the Tripartite Work Group for Lower Wage Workers. This refreshes the government's social compact with our low-wage workers to better support them, provide stronger wage outcomes, and for all of us to play a stronger role to create a more inclusive and cohesive society. We have already made good progress in uplifting our low-wage workers through efforts such as workfare and progressive wage model, or PWM. In the last 5 years, from 2016 to 2021, we have seen good wage growth across our workforce. Real median income of full-time employed residents has increased steadily at 2.1% per annum. In comparison, real income at the 20th percentile, our low-wage workers has risen faster than median at 2.7% per annum. Now, this means that we are reducing the income gap even as we move up as a workforce. Our moves to enhance wage growth in the PWM sectors and introduce the new Local Qualifying Salary, or LQS, provide us with further opportunities to narrow income inequality in the coming years. In my speech, Mr. Chairman, I will elaborate on the progress of the Tripartite Work Group on Low-Wage Worker recommendations and how progressive wages and workfare will continue to be the key thrust in our efforts to uplift our low-wage workers. I will also elaborate on our efforts to strengthen HR capabilities so that HR professionals are better able to support businesses. With your permission, Chairman, may I ask the clerks to distribute a handout detailing our efforts to support our low-wage workers?
Please do.
Thank you. Members may also access the handout through the SG PAL MP mobile app. The Tripartite Work Group on Low-Wage Workers report was released in August 2021 and outlines our recommendations for a refreshed approach and ambition for an inclusive and uplifting society. We have seen good progress since the release of the recommendations. New PWM sectors such as retail and F&B have been identified and negotiations are underway. We can expect to see significant progress in wage outcomes in the coming years for existing PWMs in the cleaning, security, landscape, and lift and escalator sectors. So, for example, from 2022 to 2028, entry-level cleaners will see a cumulative wage increase of up to 84% to receive baseline wages of about $2,400 in 2028. The other existing PWMs have also shown similarly strong momentum, and you can find them in our fact sheet here of how you will see significant increases across the various PWMs. They reflect the work group's commitment to narrow income dispersion between workers at the lowest 20th percentile and median, and this will strengthen our social compact. At the same time, our overarching principle continues to be that wages and productivity should rise in tandem. Hence, we not only want wages to rise, but we also want to see productivity increase through upskilling of workers and through the transformation of businesses. We have seen more Singaporeans joining sectors with the PWM, such as security and landscape, as wages and working conditions improve. For example, the employment of locals in the security sector grew by an average of 5% per year compared to 2015, which was before PWM was introduced. Now, this is different from some other countries where broad-based minimum wages caused unintended unemployment. It is this sustainable progress that gives the tripartite partners confidence and the impetus to expand the progressive wage model to cover new sectors and new occupations. Starting in September this year, we will implement the new local qualifying salary requirement as well as the retail PWM and the extension of PWM to cover in-house cleaners, security officers, and landscape workers. And this will be followed closely by our second wave of moves in March 2023, just next year, about this time, when we implement the food services PWM and the occupational progressive wages. Overall, by early 2023, 234,000 or more than 8 in 10 full-time low-wage workers will be covered by progressive wages. Given the competitive labour market, we are confident that the PWMs will continue to set the pace of wage growth of our lower-wage workers. Hence, even when low-wage workers who are not covered directly by any PWM should still see good wage growth, as the employers would likely have to adjust their wages to keep pace with the market and to retain them. Beyond uplifting wages, we'd also want to encourage our employers to pay more attention to other aspects of the well-being of our low-wage workers. Therefore, the recommendation of the tripartite work group, I'm pleased to now launch a new tripartite standard on advancing well-being of low-wage workers. The tripartite standards are a set of good employment practices that all employers should implement at their workplaces. The new tripartite standard on advancing well-being of low-wage workers will encourage employers to provide better workplace support for our low-wage workers, focusing on areas of training and career development, to provide rest areas, as well as care for their mental well-being, as mentioned by Mr. Melvin Yong. We recognize that our workforce has experienced significant disruptions to their jobs during COVID-19. So therefore, it is important that employers cultivate a healthy working environment. Minister of State Gan will elaborate more on these efforts in her speech. To strengthen our social compact, the efforts of the tripartite partners and employers alone are not enough. We must recognize that all of us have a role to play, all of us as consumers. It is in this light that the tripartite work group recommended establishing a new progressive wage mark or PW mark accreditation. We want to help individual consumers and corporate buyers easily identify progressive employers that are supporting low-wage workers and support these employers through their purchases. So the PW mark will be launched in the second half of this year, and employers that pay at least the relevant sectoral occupational progressive wages to eligible workers, as well as the local qualifying salary to all other local workers, will be accredited with the PW mark. Now, for employers that have gone one step further to adopt the new tripartite standard on advancing well-being of low-wage workers, they will be recognized with the PW mark plus accreditation. To rally the industry to adopt the PW mark, the Singapore Business Federation has agreed to help administer the PW mark. Now, the government will do our part to lend strong support to the PW mark. So from March 2023, we will require all suppliers to the government, all suppliers awarded government contracts to be accredited with the PW mark, starting with contracts with larger value. So more details will be announced in the coming months. Now, we encourage potential suppliers to apply and obtain the PW mark early once it is launched. Chairman, our progressive wage measures together, this increases our coverage of progressive wages further up to 266,000 or 94% of full-time low-wage workers. Put together, 94%. As we significantly widen the coverage of progressive wages and introduce the new local qualifying salary requirement, we recognize that the employers would need some transitional support to adjust to the changes in the immediate term. The government has thus committed its strong support through the Progressive Wage Credit Scheme, or PWCS, which was announced by the Minister of Finance earlier. But to recap, under the PWCS, there will be 2 tiers of funding. First, the government will co-fund the first 2 most recent years of wage increases given to resident workers up to a wage ceiling of $2,500 for a 5-year period from 2022 to 2026. Co-funding will be at 50% in the first 2 years, 30% in the next 2 years, before tapering off at 15% in 2026. Now, with economic conditions remaining uncertain in the immediate term, the PWCS will also provide a second tier of funding to cover those earning between $2,500 to $3,000 for a shorter period of 3 years. So with PWCS, the government is providing direct support to the firms as they adjust to the progressive wage and LQS moves. We want to encourage all firms, including those not in the PWM sector, to provide wage increases voluntarily in the immediate term when the government support is the strongest. And we urge employers to use this period of support to also accelerate the structural transformation of their business processes. Employers must take the lead in improving firm-level productivity so that wage increases will be sustainable for businesses even when the support ends. So I thus agree with Mr. Shahriar Taha that employers must press on to innovate and to digitalize. Now, the government is expanding the range of solutions under schemes such as the Productivity Solutions Grant and Advanced Digital Solutions Scheme to support such efforts. Now, working in tandem with these schemes, I'd encourage our trade associations and chambers to play a key role in promoting innovation and digitalization efforts and share best practices. Workers should also continue to take the initiative in upgrading their skills and applying these skills at work, be it to increase productivity or to take on new roles. Now, this will help them continue to support business transformation and ensure that wage improvements are sustainable in the long run. Therefore, I fully support Mr. Shahriar Taha's suggestions for encouraging lower wage workers to upskill. Today, the Workfare Skill Support Scheme provides incentives to encourage low-wage workers to upskill through training allowances and a training commitment award. In 2020, MOM expanded the income qualifying criteria and increased the amount of allowance and award. So I hope that our workers will take the opportunity to upskill and improve their career prospects. Moving on to the Workfare Income Supplement Scheme, or what we know as Workfare for short. Now, Workfare was introduced in 2007 to narrow income inequality, to help our low-wage workers save more for their retirement, and to encourage our low-wage workers to work regularly, whether it is for full-time or part-time work, depending on what best suits their circumstances. So 15 years on, almost 1 million workers have benefited from over $8.6 billion in Workfare payouts. One worker who benefited from Workfare over the years is Madam Tima binti Muhammad Kasan. Being the sole breadwinner while raising 2 children was not easy for Madam Tima. Workfare made it better for her and her family by topping up her income since 2007. In total, she has received over $34,000 in cash and CPF top-ups from Workfare. This has helped her support her husband, who is unable to work, and her children while paying off mortgage for her 3-room HDB flat. Madam Tima is also supported by other government schemes. So, for example, she currently receives silver support payouts of $720 per quarter. She also chose to boost her retirement income via the lease buyback scheme and received a $30,000 cash bonus on top of the proceeds from selling part of the flat's leases. So the support from Workfare has not stopped. Workfare will continue to boost her income for as long as she wishes to continue working. Uplifting our low-wage workers is a collective responsibility. As businesses and consumers pay our low-wage workers better, the government too will do our part. So as announced by the Minister for Finance, the government will be making significant enhancements to Workfare in 2023. So let me briefly recap the enhancements here. Workers earning up to $2,500 a month will now be able to qualify for Workfare, up from the current qualifying income cap of $2,300. Workers will also need to earn at least $500 a month to qualify for Workfare. Members had debated this extensively during the budget debate. We understand and we share your concerns. But allow me first to clarify a statement that I made at the budget debate about the number of workfare recipients that will be affected by the new criteria. The 20,000 figure, as cited by Minister Tan See Leng, had already taken into account the expected wage growth from PWM expansion and the new LQS requirement. So our objective, in line with workfare's overall design, is to nudge all workers, full-time and part-time, towards gainful employment and a higher sense, so that we give them a higher sense of achievement. We also want to better target workfare at those who need it, our low-wage workers, those with lower household incomes, and not casual workers doing vacation jobs, for example. At the same time, we will ensure that those deserving and in need will continue receiving workfare by providing concessions for them. So for low-income part-time workers who qualify for ComCare, they will continue receiving workfare even if they earn less than $500 per month. There are some who want to work more but are unable to do so due to various personal circumstances, such as persons with disabilities. They too will continue receiving workfare. In fact, PWDs will receive the highest tier of workfare. So I hope this assures members of this House that those who are in need and who are deserving of workfare will continue to keep receiving it. Here I wish to reiterate a point that Minister Tan also made at the budget debate. Workfare is not the end game for these workers earning less than $500 per month. We need to help these part-time workers find jobs of the appropriate quality and quantity of working hours to earn at least $500 or more if they can. And we have a whole suite of employment facilitation programs and initiatives ready to assist. Finally, we will increase the payouts. Older workers like Madam Tima will continue to receive the highest workfare payouts of up to $4,200 a year, or $350 per month. Workfare has supported our persons with disabilities for more than a decade, and certainly they can do with extra support. From 2023, with the enhancements, we will provide a stronger helping hand by placing all PWDs on the highest payout tier of $4,200 a year. And we recognize that our younger and middle-aged workers are also dealing with greater family and financial obligations. Many of them are taking care of both their children and their elderly parents while still paying off their housing loan. And this is why we will also be increasing workfare for them. Mr. Abdul Samad Abdul Wahab suggested to exclude overtime pay when assessing a worker's eligibility for workfare. Overtime pay, together with basic pay and bonuses, make up the worker's total income that will help support the worker and his or her family. As workfare helps low-wage workers by supplementing their income, looking at the total income earned by the worker enables us to better assess the additional support to be provided by workfare. If we had only used basic salaries to determine who will qualify for workfare, some workers with low basic salary but high overall pay may displace another worker with a higher basic salary, but overall he does not get much more. That was all he gets. So the worker displaced would have needed workfare but does not get it, but the worker with high bonuses gets workfare, and therefore you can see the challenges of why we go towards cross wages. So, Mr. Chairman, workfare has supported generations of workers and helped them save more for retirement. We will now extend this same support to younger workers like Ms. Lily. Well, Ms. Lily is an anonymized name and she prefers us not to use her real name. So Ms. Lily is turning 30 years old next year. She works at a pest control company. She bought a flat 4 years ago and is living with her 6 children and her elderly mother. She's currently receiving a suite of government support to help her with her household expenses, including financial support such as the ComCare short to medium-term assistance and the MOE financial assistance scheme for her school-going children. So from 2023, workers aged 30 to 34 like Ms. Lily, many of whom are just starting their families or supporting elderly parents, can expect to receive up to $2,100 workfare payouts a year. And she is looking forward to the boost in income, which will be an additional source of help with her household expenses. She says that workfare monies will be used to pay her HDB installments and buy school supplies for her children. Mr. Chairman, these enhancements will apply to all lower-wage employees and self-employed persons, regardless of occupation. So as pointed out by Dr. Shahira Abdullah, to qualify for workfare, SEPs need to declare their incomes and make the required MediSave contributions. The need to meet CPF obligations is part of workfare's eligibility criteria and applies to both employees and self-employed persons. Nonetheless, CPF board does exercise flexibilities to help SEPs facing difficulties making their CPF contributions. Overall, the enhancements will benefit more workers. Over 500,000 low-wage workers from 2023 will benefit from workfare, up from 460,000 today. Progressive wages and workfare will continue to form the foundation of the government's multi-layer support for our low-wage workers. Even as we roll up our sleeves and implement these moves over the next 2 years and beyond, I'm reminded of workers like Mr. Muhammad Ali. In 2017, Mr. Ali was an entry-level security officer earning about $1,007 per month. As a worker earning less, he received some support from workfare. Guided by PWM's career pathway and with training support from workfare skill support, he upskilled and took on new responsibilities. Today, he is a senior security supervisor overseeing around 40 officers. He earns about $3,100 a month, an increase of $1,400 compared to when he first started. He has since graduated from workfare as his income exceeds the current workfare qualifying income cap. Now, this is a good and intended outcome. While workfare provided Mr. Ali with income and training support when he needed it, progressive wages also offered progression pathway to higher wages and better skills for workers like him. So Mr. Ali, I'm glad, made the most of it, and I'm happy to share that he has graduated from the workfare scheme as progressive wages has enabled him to earn more. With the new recommendations for security PWM, Mr. Ali will earn $3,550 per month in 2024. And by 2028, senior security advisors like him will earn at least $4,430, a significant progress compared to the $1,700 that he earned when he first started. So members may be pleased to know that under the PWM, entry-level security officers will earn at least $3,530 by 2028. Mr. Ali's story is also situated within the larger story of progression for his company, APRO, Asian Protection. Spurred by the PWM and industry transformation efforts, APRO has adopted various tech-based solutions to increase their productivity and their value add to service buyers. Moving on to a separate but pertinent topic, HR plays a vital role in supporting our workers and businesses. I thus echo Mr. Edward Chia, Mr. Yip Hon Wing, and Mr. Patrick Tay's calls for companies to build up their HR competencies and capabilities. The Institute of HR Professionals accredits and certifies HR professionals as well as guide their continuous professional development. To date, there are more than 5,000 certified aspiring and practicing HR professionals who support one another, developing and sharing HR best practices. IHRP also provides curated learning resources such as HR playbooks, as well as facilitates peer-led communities of practice and networking opportunities. So we encourage more employer and HR professionals to join this expanding network. So MWM will also continue to work with NTUC, SNEF, and the TACs to strongly encourage more HR professionals to be certified by HRP. Mr. Patrick Tay also asked for an update on the Human Capital Partnership or HCP program. Since the launch of the HCP program in 2017, we have awarded the HCP mark to more than 600 employers who employ over 210,000 locals, or about 10% of the total local workforce. We will continue to work with the tripartite partners to identify and recognize our progressive employers. Mr. Chairman, allow me to recap some of MOM's efforts in Malay. Seperti yang dikongsi Menteri Tenaga Manusia, MOM committed untuk membentuk dasar-dasar tenaga kerja kita untuk membolehkan lebih banyak peluang untuk semua dan supaya kita maju sebagai sebuah negara yang bertenaga. Biar saya mulakan dengan bercakap tentang dasar-dasar tenaga kerja kita. Dasar tenaga kerja asing kita dipandu oleh matlamat kita iaitu teras rakyat Singapura yang kukuh, dilengkapi dengan tenaga kerja asing yang bermutu tinggi dan pelbagai. Pertama, kita akan pastikan bahawa pemegang PAS pekerjaan ataupun EP dan PAS S adalah setanding dengan mutu sepertiga teratas tenaga kerja PMAT dan APT tempatan kita. Gaji kelayakan dan levy akan dinaikkan dengan sewajarnya untuk mencapai penanda aras ini. Kami juga akan memperkenalkan rangka kerja penilaian pelengkap ataupun COMPAS sebagai sebahagian daripada rangka kerja PAS pekerjaan. COMPAS adalah sistem berasaskan mata yang menilai kelengkapan pemohon EP secara holistik. Ia akan mengambil kira satu, gaji pemohon berbanding dengan gaji PMAT tempatan dalam sektor mereka. Kedua, kelayakan pemohon. Ketiga, kepelbagaian kerakyatan pekerja firma. Dan keempat, sokongan firma untuk mendapatkan pekerja tempatan. Dan juga kita akan melihat faktor-faktor lain seperti sama ada calon itu mempunyai kemahiran dalam kekurangan ataupun sama ada firma itu menyokong objektif ekonomi strategi kita. Jadi pada masa yang akan datang, pemohon EP harus memenuhi gaji kelayakan EP dan meraih jumlah mata yang mencukupi di bawah COMPAS. Jadi pemegang EP sedia ada juga harus memenuhi kriteria-kriteria ini apabila PAS kerja mereka perlu diperbaharui. Jadi apakah maknanya bagi tenaga kerja tempatan kita? COMPAS akan mengambil kira lebih banyak faktor dalam menilai permohonan EP. Bersama-sama dengan keperluan gaji kelayakan EP yang lebih tinggi, rakyat tempatan boleh dipastikan bahawa pemegang EP di sini berkaliber dan bukan hanya kerana gaji mereka lebih rendah berbanding rakyat tempatan. Jadi dengan COMPAS, rakyat tempatan juga seharusnya lebih yakin bahawa firma-firma akan diberi insentif untuk memperbaiki kepelbagaian pekerja mereka dan mengukuhkan sokongan mereka bagi pekerja tempatan kita. Tuan Pengerusi, kami juga akan meneruskan usaha-usaha yang sedia ada untuk meningkatkan para pekerja bergaji rendah. Kami akan memperluaskan lagi PWM dan melaksanakan keperluan gaji kelayakan tempatan ataupun LQS. Menjelang awal 2023, 234,000 atau lebih daripada 8 dalam 10 pekerja bergaji rendah sepenuh masa akan dibayar gaji progresif. Pemerintah sedang memainkan peranan melalui skim kredit gaji progresif ataupun PWCS yang membiayai kenaikan gaji pekerja bergaji rendah kita. Kita juga akan mempertingkatkan skim tambahan pendapatan daya kerja ataupun workfare untuk menyediakan bayaran yang lebih tinggi kepada semua penerima workfare kita. Jadi pada keseluruhannya, pemerintah akan membelanjakan $9 bilion sepanjang 5 tahun yang akan datang untuk kedua-dua skim ini. Mr. Chairman, to conclude, our suite of measures will benefit both lower wage workers and businesses and allow us to renew and strengthen our social compact. The government will spend $9 billion over the next 5 years for the progressive wage credit scheme and enhanced workfare. And this reflects this government's, the PAP government's strong belief and commitment to uplift our low-wage workers and to build a fair and inclusive society. Our social compact must be one which everyone enjoys the fruits of growth and that no worker is left behind as Singapore progresses. We must be careful to not let our social compact be eroded by inequality. Otherwise, our society, including our businesses, will not function well and much less thrive. We have made significant progress over the last decade. And Mr. Chairman, we will do even better in this decade in creating a more progressive and inclusive society. Thank you.